All right, welcome back to the Talk to Me PDD podcast. I'm your host, PDD. This is my opportunity to talk to you about leadership, people management, productivity, and whatever is top of mind with me. So today is episode 6. We're going to talk about courage. This is the third C in the 3 C's framework that I've talked about for people managers. So starting with connection, then compartmentalization, and ending with courage. And I think courage is probably the area that we are least prepared for as people managers to deal with and to have skills that we need to face the challenges that we'll face. I recently saw a speaker, Chris Cook, former Olympic swimmer, and one of the things that he said that stuck out to me is courage over comfort, and that's something that we should aspire to make sure that we're willing to lean in and be courageous. And oftentimes that means um, dealing with discomfort and sometimes just consequences as well, right? So um, it's not just that it might be difficult for us to get through, but there are going to be outcomes that are determined by our actions for better or for worse that can have significant impact on ourselves, on our business, on people that we work with. So how do we prepare ourselves for these challenges, and how do we approach our work with courage when things aren't easy? Um, Oftentimes in work, there can be emotional challenges with conflicts that we face. This is even more so true for people managers, just because of I think the size and scope of our networks, the people that we manage directly, the type of challenges that we're exposed to. Um, so how do we think about navigating those conflicts and being courageous when it's going to be difficult for us emotionally? In the compartmentalization piece, the second C sort of talked about preparing for these types of conversations and doing things in general to balance out the emotional burden. But there's still that piece where we're going to have to be willing to dive in and to deal with some conversations or situations that have emotional weight to them. And that does take courage. It takes our willingness to engage and leave the safety and comfort behind. Um, Sometimes we do also face situations where there are political costs where maybe for ourselves, for our organization, and the outcomes of our decisions and our actions may have impact to our own success, the people that we manage success, other success. So again, different types of consequences that we face as leaders and people managers, and being ready to face those, and to have the courage to take action to lead, and when there is risk there, that based on what we do, the outcome may be better or worse for us. um, and that can sometimes mean that we need to pick and choose our battles. So as much as I believe in having sort of our own moral code, our set of ethics that we should apply in every situation, there's also a bit of a calculus to that as well, right? Are you going to go fight every single small battle to always feel like you're right in your moral code? Maybe that's something that you want to do, but maybe that's not the best long-term strategy to end up getting your business or the group that you manage or yourself to where you want to be. So sometimes there's a practical give and take to picking the right times to stand up and have those tough battles, or take on a tough situation. And there are times that when maybe that's not the right call, and it can be difficult to determine when that is. And that's something that you'll need to sort of navigate on your own and find your own systems and ways of doing that. Um, One of the things that I think is helpful when trying to determine what action to take in a hard situation is to take the counterpoint, to think about what will happen if you don't act, and then weigh the two against each other. Sometimes not acting can be that comfort situation. So if I take the comfortable road, what's going to happen? Are there negative outcomes that are going to happen if I don't act? And is it worth facing that discomfort and that challenge to avoid those outcomes? And that's something that is an individual question, and you'll have to figure out for yourself. And I think it's really important to have your own set of ethics and a moral code and a set of values in advance before you're faced with these challenges. So something to think about, if you don't have that already, or just wrapping your head around, what's an important enough battle for you, for something that you believe in, that you're willing to go face some discomfort, that you're willing to maybe risk or lose some political capital. And know that in advance, because when you're in one of these situations that requires courage, you really want to minimize the amount of effort that you have to do thinking, the amount of willpower that it takes. So figuring out in advance what you believe in, what you stand for, what you're willing to fight for, it's going to make it easier for you to make these decisions in the tough moments when there's a lot of other stresses and factors that are going to take your focus away. And we talk about integrity in leaders and valuing integrity in leadership. And you can talk all you want about your beliefs and your values, but integrity is built through action, and it's built through taking action in these tough situations that require your courage as a leader. Um, and that's it's just something to bear in mind. If you say you value integrity, you want the people that you lead to see that in you as a leader. Ultimately, there are going to be times where you have to step up and you have to take on those challenges, and you have to put yourself out there and expose yourself to risk in order to back up those values that you talked about. It's not enough just to say them. Um, and sometimes the victories that you'll have in these situations, um, they can be very rewarding, but they're often private victories. So we don't sometimes get to celebrate our own courage and standing up for our values, because for a variety of reasons, there may be things that can't be shared with other people for whatever reason. So we have to take heart in living our own mission, and that has to be enough in and of itself. You can't always look for external validation or celebration for some of these, some of the hardest battles that you may fight, or some of the toughest situations that you face, maybe something that you keep to yourself. So being able to take pride in that, even if it's internally, and to use that to reinforce your own strong set of values, um, that's the accomplishment that you need to take out of it. Um, so as challenging as situations can be, this is where we're sort of forged, where we find our own internal truth and what really matters to us. In the same way I talked about, projecting integrity to others, to the people that we lead. In the same way, we build that within ourselves when we're willing to take on tough challenges, when we're willing to face discomfort, to take on emotional or politically dangerous situations. We're going to find out what we're truly made of as leaders. And I think you only really know that when you're in those situations, and you sort of have to forge yourself in the fire a bit as it was. So I think take heart when you're facing those tough situations, that even though it's uncomfortable, when you come through it, you're going to have learned a lot, and you're going to be a much stronger leader and be better equipped to face challenging situations again in the future. Um, Sometimes it takes courage, not just for ourselves, but to put our faith into others. So managing people, leading teams, you don't always know that the people on the team are going to take the same approach or the same quality that maybe you would. And it can also take courage to give up control, and allow others to go out and have those opportunities, and to fail or succeed on their own. Um, so I think it's not just being courageous in ourselves, but being courageous in others and putting our faith in them, and giving the opportunity to go out and lead and do on their own. Um, it can be tempting to micromanage things, especially things that you're responsible for. But ultimately, that's a limiting approach, both for you, for your team, and for the individuals on your team. Um, And the reality with all these things is that you may fail, both as an individual leader or people on your team, and being able to manage that and learn from it. Um, and sometimes we talk about, wanting to take risks, wanting to innovate, and sometimes we fail when we do those, when we try new things. And so understanding that there is that risk there, being willing to take it, knowing that sometimes you will fail or your team or projects will fail, and being able to learn that and learn from that and get up and try again and move forward. Um, Sometimes as people managers, we have to give critical feedback, and that can be uncomfortable. It's not fun to necessarily tell someone areas where they may need to improve or there may be performance issues, that sort of thing. So I think it's important to remember that being clear is being kind. If you were in a situation where your performance wasn't where it was supposed to be, I think most people would want to know that so they have an opportunity to address it. So, um, being willing to look at the end outcome of having those tough conversations can make it easier to manage through the discomfort of having them. It's easy to try and put those things to the side and just think somebody will figure it out or it'll work out on its own. But ultimately, that you're doing a disservice to that person by not telling them what the real challenges are and giving them an opportunity there. Um, I mentioned in some of the earlier episodes that it can be difficult to get feedback, especially as you get more senior. So I think also courage and giving feedback extends to yourself. Being self-critical in a positive way is something that's just really valuable. And then encouraging other people to give you feedback, even critical feedback, and being positive about receiving it. That takes courage as well. As valuable it is, it can still be somewhat emotionally painful to receive feedback on areas that you're not doing well. So um, courage is extremely important for people managers, for leaders, and I encourage all of you, regardless of your role, to go out and do your work and lead and live with courage and to face that discomfort. And ultimately, it's going to help you grow, become a stronger leader, be someone with integrity, be someone that people trust and want to work with and want to follow. So there you go. That's the third C, courage. And that concludes episode 6. So thank you all for listening.